necessarily a hard fast rule. We are in fact going to be seeing New Paradigm defending first. Irons out in the Doomfist. We do see Spanik getting subbed in. Pantheon actually look like they might just want to run a goats here.
Yeah, which would be fairly standard. What they do have to consider here is going into a Somber Doomfist. Doom is being run fairly often on this A defense. You'll see disrupting that front line already.
Good hack from Unknown as well. They already had the scouting on the approach. They knew the exact angle. Unknown found 2 or 1.5 on the back line. Iron found 1 in the front. There was also just the straight frag out from Ref. That was a great start for New Paradigm.
And this opening choke is always so hard for the attacking team because they have to push past a potential hack onto one of their main tank players, or they have to go past, you know, a lot of disruption coming through from the Doomfist on Iron as well, which is going to really stop up that rotation for Global Esports. If they lose another fight, they're going to be at a heavy ult disadvantage.
Now, New Paradigm. That was a good rotation from Pantheon. New Paradigm not quite getting the catch on that one, but now second rotation. They choose to not really fight that one. They don't want to get too aggressive.
So the timing here is important because Unknown is nearly onto the EMP, and that's probably going to stop the entire push for Global Esports if they're not too careful.
They're still very clustered, and that's the EMP going down on top of them. Unfortunately, losing Frost early in the fight, and now Ain't only just able to get into the thick of this, but that's Pantheon having successfully retreated into this very confined space, somewhere Ain't does not want to fight.
We do also have some more ults coming online as well. Spanik already using the rally. It's time for Pantheon to get onto the point.
And it's a very good time to do so as well. Ain't has to use the Meteor Strike to preserve his health total. Proper getting forced out on the side there as well. Ain't does come in and immediately find Backwall. Now Sakura in trouble. And actually, because they took the pressure off Ain't for a second, he starts to hit back. Water throws out a decent grab. Somewhat countered by Ref's Transcendence, but Froppy does still go down. Now Backwall with the Transcendence available as Ain't gets finished off, and New Paradigm have really yet to recover this situation. Even with the kills they've been finding, they're actually still losing members on the whole. That's going to be a net loss for New Paradigm. It should be a point going to Global Esports soon.
Still just waiting for respawners here. Global Esports are about to cap this one through. Couple of ticks in there. New Paradigm, they have all 6, but they are not together, and they're still losing members.
Yeah, Frost is low. He'll probably get picked up if he's not careful. Ref has been in a bad spot as well. Yeah, decent to get that out of Backwall, I have to say, but I mean, this is still a really awkward fight for New Paradigm. They throw Frost on the point, they lose him. Now Tito, very late death. This gives Pantheon a huge opportunity to snowball.
That's the thing, because now they get to walk directly onto B while members are not even ready to set up for the defense here from New Paradigm side. Unknown, waiting for that EMP as well. He's not far off. A little bit of damage is going to do it. And for Global Esports, if they can get to the point quickly, they might be able to find an opening.
Not quite. New Paradigm do get the respawns here, and now you actually see, because of some changes, Medic only just coming in with Backwall. Unknown's got an EMP as well.
He hasn't been spotted. There he is.
Straight in on top of them, doesn't get stunned out. Again, the follow-up from New Paradigm, not all that slick. Oh, as I say, that Ain's able to find 2 just to recover the fact that Frost had got picked off. And with that nano boost, he slam dunks Spanik with a crisp 1-2 punch to the face. It's going to be another one onto Medic as well.
It's not the easiest place for a defensive team to get into, but Ayn, because he is playing a Doomfist, he can just dive directly in, picks up the initial 2 kills, then goes on to number 3 and 4. And for Global Esports, they survive the EMP. When I say survive, I mean loosely in the terms of they managed to at least get that reset now. They managed to bait the EMP out, force it to be used while holding on to majority of their own ultimates, which means they can now push in with some small advantages. The Earth Shatter is going to be probably the big one here because Frost is still playing a Winston. Very difficult to counter the Shatter out.
Pantheon, good approach so far, just kind of going right down the middle with the sound barrier running. Sakura to get hacked out though. Now the slam dunk on top of them, doesn't find any instant kills, stunned but not killed. Now rejoins the fray and immediately pays dividends for the team. Water ended up off the edge in that one, and it is Pantheon losing a lot of members. Iron and Frost do die here, but Tato should be able to self-destruct to preserve the mech. Ref as well, Transcendence, which means they actually don't need to self-destruct just yet. And like you said, that EMP can come in if they need it to secure the fight, which they actually might not, because they are just kind of forcing Pantheon off the point.
So here's the thing. You do need to start seeing potentially New Paradigm use ultimates, which would go for New Global Esports advantage. More they can bait out, the better.
And I mean, that was just the Nano Boost and Primal Rage there. Pantheon getting forced off. Just with that alone, it's decent enough for New Paradigm when you consider they held on crucially to the EMP.
And that's the thing, because that's the hardest ultimate in terms of getting a victory for New Paradigm. That's the one that they really want to use. If they were forced to use an EMP, this would be a very big push coming through from Global Esports. Now, they still have to somehow survive this EMP. They don't have any support ultimates. That would be the normal counter. They might just have to absorb the EMP again, take the loss, and re-push. assuming they don't just bash him out.
Unknown's actually yet to have highly successful EMPs. This one, though, is going to be a high success. Good connect onto so many members and very quick run of kills as well. Actually, Froppy gets the credit for all of those, funnily enough. But the point remains, that is the EMP that New Paradigm have been waiting for.
And to be fair, the last 2 EMPs in a row have resulted in pretty big teamfight wins for New Paradigm. Global Esports, though, they're happy to just bank up for now, knowing that they are going to lose a decent amount of time for that fight loss, but they did not have the appropriate counter for the EMP available at the time. So they just have to go through, play the fight again, use the 4 ultimates that they do have, and this time do actually connect those, because last time I'm pretty sure Inhyuk tried to solo Earthshatter Eind, and that did not work.
Unknown gets to get himself a decent bit of ultimate charge in the back line. He had 30 prior to this, so another 20 in the pocket. Now Eind looking to get the wraparounds collapse as they move forward. Nice stun. Don't quite get the follow-up, but it forces a meteor strike. And Froppy, by the way, dying in that as well. Goes down onto the back line, but not quite ideal. Yeah, there's a lot of messy ultimates being committed, in fact, from both sides. But it is GE Pantheon with the numbers advantage. Now self-destruct from Tato finds water, so suddenly New Paradigm are in a position where they can start beating back the tide. GE Pantheon have got themselves a third. They've got themselves a couple more kills as well.
Big EMP.
Ooh, but he goes down. It's only Eind and Frost who can do the follow-up, and they're not getting it. Frost does get one, but it's nowhere near enough. Global Esports Pantheon set up well enough on the point. Should be able to pick ref as he rejoins, and indeed won't even need to, and that will be the cap completed for Global Esports Pantheon.
And that was even without the support ultimates coming online in time as well for GE Pantheon. That was probably the biggest thing that was missing. They had all the other 4 ultimates, which they did use. Inhyuk again tries to solo shatter against Eind's Doofus, just does not connect, trying to get him directly out of the meteor strike. Isn't going to be able to work the way he wants it to. If a New Paradigm, it starts off quite well, even gets the EMP very quickly. You don't expect the EMP to be charged that fast, but it was there. Unfortunately for New Paradigm, didn't have the members to follow up. Himself as well, Unknown going down straight away as soon as the EMP was used.
Now GE Pantheon, 142 in the time bank. That is pretty decent. They just need to have a successful defense of their own at some point, or at the very least, force New Paradigm into an uncomfortably thin time bank. Very achievable still, however, for New Paradigm as well.
And importantly, Global Esports camp with more than 1 minute remaining now to their own defense. They get to run their own Doomfist Sombra combo. We get to see the sort of difference here. Spanik on the Doomfist should be fairly effective. Already had a decent amount of time talking this man up and on this hero specifically. And they can do the very similar thing, in fact, the exact same thing as what New Paradigm were doing on that A defense, disrupting the goats pushing through as they're trying to get through the choke. New Paradigm, though, looking to potentially play Eind or the Genji to start with.
Be right back.
What are you doing up there?
It's actually a decent place to have a translocator. Kind of hard to take down, very difficult to spot.
Perched up on the power pole.
Hard to punish as well. If he does get spotted, he just punches his way directly back to his own team.
Attackers incoming.
Now, GE Pantheon, set as they are on this defense, see how New Paradigm handle this as they approach. Spanik should be able to know. He does get spotted out, so there you see, is able to get back to his team without too much trouble.
Now we get to see how Spanik wants to set up again, because New Paradigm want to be able to rotate here. Unlikely that they actually want to fight, so straight away, as soon as New Paradigm want to go through the gates, Spanik has to react, has to get the knockups.
It is a bit of a pressure thing for him, but there he goes in, gets big knockups. Froppy low, doesn't quite go down, but they split New Paradigm in the rotation. They're going to lose Unknown. So potentially even worse a loss than Froppy, because it's so much damage output from the Zarya.
It's also a lot of defense as well, and a very slow now ultimate charge coming through from Unknown, because, well, he's been dead this entire time. New Paradigm stuck in a very difficult place. They have 5 members. They have to try and regroup with Unknown. They don't want to play 5 into 6, but where can they go?
And Water's got tabs on Unknown as he makes his approach as well. With the 2 DPSs collapsing on him, he's going to have a very hard time staying alive. That's the thing, they should here. This is actually a 5 versus 4 if they had committed to the point, but they've hesitated. That actually means they're now kind of going for a bit of a retreat. They're not sure what they want to do here.
Well, they're wasting a lot of time because Unknown is still trying to get back to the team, and Global Esports Pantheon is just taking that timer down. They're happy to wait here. New Paradigm are the ones that are forced to actually make something happen. They have to have some action.
This the thing. If they recognized with those 2 DPSs, there was an opportunity, but they didn't. Now this time they lose Tito's mech as they wait for the regroup from Unknown. And at this point, this is looking like it'll be a costly fight loss. Not just costly in terms of time, but also costly in terms of the fact that GE Pantheon have charged up ultimates and New Paradigm have yet to get one.
And this is the worst case scenario as well. Unknown's going to go down fairly late here. At least does have to get the Graviton Surge ready. But like you said, 5 ultimates on the side of Global Esports, including when you consider maybe 6, because there was a Meteor Strike just used by Spanik in that last engagement. This entire time, New Paradigm waiting to see if they can regroup Unknown. When they finally almost do, Global Esports pounce them, clean them up anyway. We're now down to under 2 minutes.
This is not great for New Paradigm. That's a funky grab, but hey, if it works, it works. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't, thanks to Backwall's efforts. But that EMP didn't really get much mileage either, so now actually New Paradigm have a big opportunity. They've burned through a lot of the ultimates of GE Pantheon. Now they're starting to burn through the health bars too as they pick off water. Inhyok a little bit low is fine for now. They need to finish off Tito here. It's going to be tough.
And this is where New Paradigm are actually where their members. They're not quite together just yet. They got a DMAC on
Oh no, Ref a little bit separated out here as soon as that bubble ends. He does get a bit more time in the pocket thanks to the sound barrier, but that's only a little bit of time. It's a temporary thing, and he's still under pressure. Inhyok finally goes down as Ref, the pressure finally alleviated. What has rejoined the fight, though, in all this time? Remember, he was the first casualty here. Now, Meteor Strike from Spanik onto the back line. Ooh, does go down. Nice reaction by Eind, and barely staying alive himself for what it's worth. New Paradigm will finally look to finish off this cap here. It's been very, very messy, and GE Pantheon, they're still coming in for a late in the game contest, but they're not really getting the kills to back it up.
They can just force a couple of ults here if they are losing. Make sure you can try and get Unknown's grab. That would be a big ticket item, but it's not going to be the case. 4 minutes and 42 still remaining onto
Late
this
deaths.
push. Couple of late deaths, like you said, which means Global Esports are not set up on the defense, and New Paradigm are pushing on through very, very quickly.
With some very scary ultimates as well. Spanik really needs to get a pick in this rotation here. Paradigm, yeah, they managed to work whether that Storm. Spanik does get topped off. There's the grab out. That's a bit of a whiff, though.
I think it was a one-man, maybe a no-man.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a one-man, it was one man who got out alive. Spanik, though, with an nano boost on him, goes down anyway. Sakura does trade one back, and unfortunately, Ref not quick enough to save Frost there. Now it's to move back to try and save Tedo. Can't with that Bionade on him. EMP as well. Bit of a tough pill to swallow for New Paradigm. They lose Tito's mech. Now Frost, he has got back alive, but he's a long way away from the team. Froppy gets picked. A third cap for New Paradigm is decent, but GE Pantheon will push them back.
But it is progress as well, considering New Paradigm did push it with a bit of an advantage. Getting something on the board was definitely paramount. It was very important that they were able to get that 1/3 already. Global Esports, so managing to hold on, at least for now, but for New Paradigm, I think this is already a decent start for their B push.
Should be able to rotate into some more ultimates as well before too long. Really need that Graviton Surge. That's a very key one for them, and also sound barrier, good defensive tools if need be.
This is a sort of point where if you are in Hyok, after you use the mines, you might even look to swap because you are playing Hammond into a Winston. Not super effective. Usually you want to play the Wrecking Ball into the Ryan instead, but here comes that push, finally from New Paradigm. Still, we're just waiting for their own ults though.
GE Pantheon, they're in a decent position here, but it is all about connection. As for rotation in, that's a really whiffed minefield, unfortunately. They tried to cut them off on the rotation, but don't find it. Now Froppy coming back up to rejoin the team. Tedo a little bit isolated, will lose the mech. It's a little bit of an unfortunate situation as Ref gets slam dunked as well. The grab, unfortunately, yeah, it's just not great, and it's such a key tool that had come up so quickly, but now they lose that fight, getting absolutely nothing for it, ending up in a worse position.
The problem is, even if he catches a lot of people there, which he doesn't, they just don't have the damage follow-up. They already lost a couple of members. You're already in the sort of position where even if you get even trades, let's say you get another 2 kills back, you don't win the 4v4 onwards because the respawn advantage for the defenders of Global Esports is way too strong. Now the EMP available, and one of the big ticket items for New Paradigm is off the table. Unknown has to recharge this grab. Double support ultimates are coming online, so that is something they can work with. Very important for defending against the EMP.
Water should just be able to get a nice angle on this one, though. See if New Paradigm can maybe sniff it out, or indeed, if they don't, how they react. Lay it on, self-destruct in.
Big.
Yeah, that's so huge. And just, I mean, they kind of force Ref's hand as well with the early Transcendence. I mean, that's just It's a bit of a whiff from New Paradigm more than it's a success for GE Pantheon, but you've also got to say, well layered by GE Pantheon.
I think
to make
actually
most of that situation.
For GE Pantheon, because they threw Sakura's self-destruct down the hallway, Water was already behind the team. He sees the perfect scenario. He knows if I use the EMP here, I deny the shielding, I can deny the bubbles coming through from New Paradigm. It's going to end up in at least a couple of kills. That's exactly what happens. Then they can clean up the rest of the members. That's a pretty decent fight win, and there's still no grab available for New Paradigm yet.
I mean, that's the thing. There's a point where maybe New Paradigm are just going to have to straight frag out. They're running a Winston in with good reason, but it means they lose that other high-impact ultimate in the Earth Shatter from a Reinhardt.
Minefield.
That's a huge minefield. Trying again to cut off the rotation. Actually, I say huge. I mean, doesn't actually get much. It's the knockoff, though, that finds Ref. They do trade one back with Anyshok, but losing Ref is far more costly.
Yeah, that's because Anyshok just gets to come back in. Ref, however, he's a slow Zenyatta. Not going to be the case. Less than 1 minute now. I feel like we've been in this scenario before when Unknown was caught in base at the start of the A push. I don't know how they're supposed to regroup with their Zenyatta here unless they just back up completely, but that is a lot of time lost when they don't have a lot of time left.
And that's the thing, it does feel like New Paradigm are just kind of sitting around losing time, unsure of what to do in a lot of these situations and completely failing to be proactive. They still haven't actually got Ref back with the team, by the way.
But
There's
another
no
30
way
seconds.
for Ref to rejoin them. They need to accept that as fact, either fight or retreat. They're finally choosing to fight in what is now a position where it will be their last fight no matter what. EMP is out. Self-destruct from Tano is going to have to be huge to rescue the fight. It only finds Water. They have at least rejoined with Ref, who's trying to keep some pressure on Medic. But honestly, GE Pantheon, the respawn advantage, the kills coming through in their favor as well. Even with backwall Medic and Spanik so low, they're fishing kills, they're finding things, and New Paradigm are frankly not. That is not going to be a cap from New Paradigm, and GE Pantheon take us to match point.
And this is where Global Esports do bounce back very convincingly. That was a nice, well-played map on Hanamura, especially that B defense. Very well played from across the board. I mean, when you start to look at all their members, Spanik doing a lot of work in terms of the Doomfist there. Sombra being played as by Water as well. Decent EMPs. He was hitting a lot of targets. A lot of whiffed engages by New Paradigm across both A and B, just losing a lot of time. It felt like where New Paradigm really lost was not necessarily in the fight-to-fight moments, but what was happening in between the transition moments when they're waiting for members. Somebody gets caught out. Most of your team, 5 members, have already rotated through.
Yeah.
And you're just stuck there waiting for seconds to tens of seconds to minutes at a time.
I mean, I think actually the point A1 was the most costly one as well for New Paradigm. Like, it was sheer buffoonery, right? At that point, you either pull back and maybe accept you got a fight loss, or you look for a situation to take a fight yourself. And when Unknown gets picked off the first time, don't just sit there and wait for it to happen
Because they
again.
lost the fight anyway.
Exactly. Don't just sit there and wait for it to happen again. They just kind of sat there, like, just twiddling their thumbs like, oh, I guess we can move up the stairs and then move down the stairs.
The problem is,
no proactivity.
The actual answer was presented in front of them because GE Pantheon sent 2 members back to try and chase away Unknown again. If they just rotate onto the point,
That's
it's 5.
a 5v4.
They just start. First of all, they alleviate a lot of the pressure. Members have to come back to defend the point, which allows Unknown to potentially regroup, but also maybe they can sneak a third in there. That suddenly becomes worth it. They spend a lot of time pushing and rotating, getting 1/3, getting progress on the point makes that worthwhile. But because they didn't do any of that, they lose the fight anyway. It's just a total mess.
A total mess is a good way to put it, to be honest. And that's to say nothing of how the B push went as well. Like, they just looked very headless. And it's really a shame, like, how disparate that was compared to Hollywood. Like, just the sheer difference there. The fact that New Paradigm looked honestly headless here, unsure of what to do in any given situation. The decision-making has been good and slick from them in the past. I am surprised that they seemed so baffled there.
And by the way, it's an interesting parallel from what we did see on Hollywood when you compare both of the teams' offenses as well, because you also have a case where you see on Hanamura this attack coming from New Paradigm. They did look a little bit lost, just a lot of waiting, but that's basically what GE Pantheon also did on their Hollywood A offense that ended up costing them the map, the one where they got no progress because we were just waiting for shots that never connected. Yeah. Going on to the next map, though, number 4 has been revealed. It is going to be on Escort, and it will be Route 66, and as a little bit of a tidbit as well, we sort of went over this very early on, but because GE Pantheon have now collected 2 maps. They are safe. Well, they were already safe in playoffs, but I do believe they now get second place no matter what because of tiebreaker scenarios, even if they lose.
Yeah, funny how that works out. But at any rate, more importantly, New Paradigm are not necessarily out themselves as well. They still need to pick up a win here Route 66. Now, I do expect we're going to see Carefree coming back in for one thing. And that might actually be good news here for New Paradigm because they have been successfully able to deal with Carefree earlier in this match.
I think it's going to be a toss-up because if you look at previous matches, when we get to map 4 and Route 66, if it was Dorado, I would say, yeah, high chance for Carefree. But on Route 66, we've seen a lot of Hispanic, we've seen a lot of Kadalis. I'm actually fairly convinced that I think Carefree for the first 2 maps was a pretty good run as it was, despite the 1 loss. Now you are going to have a scenario where, to be honest, again, going back on history, this is usually where Hispanic stays in. This is usually where maybe Kadalis get swapped into.
Maybe. It'll be curious to see. I think actually maybe the real thing to say here is they have a lot of options. They could actually go with anything, which helps with that thing of not being too predictable, right? Like, as much as once you see which DPS it is, you do kind of get that information straight away. But in this immediate place, right? Well, right now, New Paradigm are going, okay, what's our likely game plan going to be here? They've got to kind of wait. There's only so much prep they can do.
What I will say is, based on what we have seen in terms of the development of Route 66, and not even just in this region, looking at Korea and stuff like that as well, you do have a lot more DPS being played. And among the DPS, you have a lot more Widow being played. And specifically, the Widow gets played because there's a lot of fire response to the Goats being run, the 3-3s out there. Because fire is on the map, the natural counter is the Widow. So based on that kind of argument, you are somewhat very likely to see Carefree as well. I think there's a good argument for any of the DPSs to be on.
I think perhaps even the argument could actually be for Kadalis. He does have a competent Widowmaker and can also flex into that Goats very easily. Not to say that Carefree can't, but I would dare say Kadalis can do it just that little bit more cleanly. That could be what drives the decision. We will just have to wait and see.
Hispanic's got to stay in.
There you go. Questions all answered now.
And they're also running a straight Ryan Goats defense, so not a lot of flexibility here. New Paradigm is the attacking team. Well, they get to play fire for free in that case.
Yeah, and the Sombra as well can just be really damaging. I mean, this is a great counter to Ryan Goats in a lot of ways, so very expertly read already by New Paradigm.
Look at the positioning here. They know they can go through the mines, but as soon as they come out the other side, they're still in trouble. They just have to go from cover to cover, and the cart's actually moving away from them.
It's actually a full rotation made by GE Pantheon, and like you said, not a favorable one. This is a worse position when you consider the ground New Paradigm had already taken, and now as Global Esports are forced to rotate back into a better position, that's the rotation that costs them. That's the one that gets them killed.
And I actually think for this reason alone, you do not want to be running Ryan Goats as a starter for the defense. It's far too easy for the attackers to immediately make some changes, play a fire, play a number of different DPSs to just counter you out. I would not be surprised now of a couple of changes come through. Anycock giving the Ryan away, in fact, giving the Winston away, wants to play the Hammond once again, and it's Water and Hispanic on 2 DPSs.
Yes, in fact, Water and Hispanic matching Unknown Ein's DPSs here. Unknown and Ein, by the way, coming close. Those ultimates huge from Water. And Floppy as well. Water has entered the game.
This is where things start to really turn online for Global Esports. Still a res available, might have to use it.
Hispanic finding Frost as well, though, so even Hispanic remaining a threat here. That's Tito as well out of the mech, and the res did come in on Water. This should be them able to deconstruct New Paradigm. And look at the difference, the composition. It was night and day.
And the thing is, New Paradigm actually have ultimate advantage here, most notably the EMP, which Hispanic is now very much catching up on, 75%. He's not too far off. Ein's going to go on the Tracer instead, and that's a decent pick considering there's no Brigida on the other side.
Ein just gave up a Rocket Barrage for that as well. Again, they want this Tracer pick. I think it's very disciplined to go for that this early despite that. So now with the EMP having been committed, they didn't quite catch Water. Need to see what follow-up they're able to achieve here. The answer is so far not much. In fact, Unknown gets picked off as Water goes hunt to kill. A Ref is on the other side of the fight with the Transcendence. And Water's still largely uncontested right now. Looking for Froppy, finds him. Ref gets bumped off the edge as well, and now New Paradigm again, despite using the ultimates, not in a good spot.
Hispanic also used the EMP there as well. If Ein, just being the sacrificial lamb here, knows he's going to go down, just wants to reset. Global Esports have now gotten themselves in ultimate advantage mode. New Paradigm, for all of the initial commanding lead that they did have, the cart push and all of that, it's starting to slip away very, very quickly.
I mean, they had a lead, but they had no inertia. That's the reality here, or what little they had. Water shut down very quickly with a double kill in that opening fight there once he came back in on the Pharah. And now we're just
that's a
seeing
big
that
hack.
lead to its logical conclusion. But like you said, hack on Spanik, but trade bed back on Unknown. So not out of the woods yet here is New Paradigm.
The thing is, Manic is in a bad position, so he can't get rezzed, which means they do have to wait for him to come through. New Paradigm have a bit of time to play with. Ironed nearly onto that pulse bomb.
Rocket barrage onto Ref, but that leaves Water in a really unfortunate position, very vulnerable down to the low ground. And Medic wanted to go in for a res, but himself now just extremely vulnerable at that spot, so he goes down. Spanik, as he rejoined the fight, immediately has to translocate back out. And then Hyok, the last point of resistance on this cart, has to back away as well.
And that's where losing Spanik actually hurts him a lot more than New Paradigm losing Unknown, who respawns so much closer. And then on top of that, Water kills himself despite getting a trade. We're still fighting right now. Global Esports have not given up, but New Paradigm have control.
This is now New Paradigm getting the kills in through onto Inhyok. Frost gets traded out though. EMP's here from Unknown though if they need it, but they might not even. This is really a trickle on from Global Esports, and New Paradigm should be able to maintain this. They've committed it out, and that's unfortunately countered by a Transcendence, but they still find a couple of kills onto the side there. So now late death from GE Pantheon as the tide kind of turns completely.
And the bigger problem is they could have gotten the EMP out for free. New Paradigm were probably going to win that fight regardless, but Global Esports decide to throw a Transcendence into there that actually covers up the EMP, trades it 1 for 1, and that's a big issue now. New Paradigm continue to push through, still have double support ultimates. Global Esports don't have any of that. They do have an EMP, but as was mentioned, he's playing as a double support ult. He might not get any value.
Commits it out, there we go, but there's that value kind of denied. They do at least get Frost, but that's 2 ultimates for it. Finding Unknown though in the fight, now it starts to be a bit more worthwhile, even finding Froppy as well. And suddenly that counter from New Paradigm meant absolutely nothing. GE Pantheon were able to find the fight.
And that's the thing, the EMP did come through, the Transcendence was yet to counter. However, first of all, Self-Destruct does not care about the Transcendence. Second of all, as soon as they started losing members, the sound barrier was not committed by Frothy, and so New Paradigm, they give up that push, and now suddenly it's going the way of Global Esports again. Dragon Blade available for Water, double support ults nearly online for both Medic and Backwall.
New Paradigm, this is not the position they wanted to be in. A couple of members going to be marching through the minefield here. They do eliminate a few of them though, so they're not going to lose any members thanks to it.
Just clear the mines and then push on through. Most of the mines are actually sitting in the air now, so not super effective. Unknown, nearly onto the EMP rather.
Yeah, Blade has from the backside with that sound barrier there, so they don't find anything with that one. Water's just going to have to put that sharp knife away. Teach him some knife safety skills there. Now Tato out of the mech though. EMP did come out from Unknown. They need to get some quick follow-up though. They're trying to pressure out Water, having a bit of a hard time of it, don't quite find him, and now this has just become a wild goose chase. Luckily on the front side of the fight, Unknown did find Inhyok, which has kind of kept the numbers in an okay position for New Paradigm. They finish off Sakura there, or rather it's a self-destruct, so never mind, don't also get Sakura while he was out of the mech and lose Tito's own mech for it, so actually the momentum starts to swing back towards GE Pantheon.
And New Paradigm is still pushing though, that's the big issue for GE Pantheon, who's still waiting to regroup. Rally being used by Iron, he's saying come on to me. We've got 6 members now, the full team has been mustered. And now less than 30 seconds remaining. The cart is nearly at the finish line, and Global Esports waiting for Spanik to finish charging the EMP.
A little bit hesitant there. That's another minefield out of Inhyok, this time much more well placed on top of the cart itself. But New Paradigm are happy to just wait it out, fight around the cart for a bit. Sound barrier out from GE Pantheon, quite an early one. There's the EMP. It only really went on to Froppy and Unknown, and so Transcendence keeps the 2 of them alive as they try to keep the pressure up on Water and Spanik. Now Unknown's own EMP. They find Spanik immediately at the top of that one. Back while he runs the Transcendence out, but Medic's still going to go down, and GE Pantheon a split here. There's only so much that Transcendence could actually do, and now that it's long since run out, the tanks start to get picked off. Sakura in trouble. Backwall's going to be the only one. Actually, no, he doesn't retreat. He was on the wrong side of that bite. Will probably go down here as well as the cap goes over.
Well played patience there by New Paradigm, just waiting out the minefield, reapproaching when the time was correct as well. They had the ultimates to play with, they had the time just barely to play with as well. And now with 1 minute, about 15 remaining onto the clock, whatever distance they can get on C is going to be very important once they go to their own defense.
Unlikely that they get a snowball here, but I'm not going to count it out just yet. Unknown Could be able to charge up an EMP in time. Indeed, that's going to be one of the most crucial tools here.
Waiting for the Dragon Blade to be available. Here he goes. Water's in.
Frost already got picked out, so this is Water kind of getting free reign on the back line.
Push
As they
away.
say that, yeah, forced out, does not want to eat a stun from Eind. So actually they get nothing for that ultimate. Now they're just going to wait for Frost to rejoin them and can get aggressive. Oh, late kill into Unknown though, so Water does at least make this count for something. But now the counter kills coming in. Medic down.
This is big for New Paradigm.
Water did get to retreat, but a lot of people had to die to cover it.
And that's the problem, because they were fighting so close to the New Paradigm spawn. New Paradigm actually have respawn advantage, and now they're snowballing through. They didn't get to do that before, but with less than 30 seconds remaining, they pick up a large number of kills in a row. Water's now onto Rosaria, knowing his Genji days are over on this point, and New Paradigm have a lot of positioning. The card has been moving steadily.
Yeah, ended up being a touch of an overextension from GE Pantheon, and one that is now getting punished. EMP going to be available, throws it right on top of the team. Good counter out though from back wall with the Transcendence.
Shadow's nearly available.
Damage in, self-destruct layered on, but no kills for it. This is a bit of a tricky position. GE Pantheon, a tad split. Nice shatter onto Inhyok and Spanik. They clean up 3 now, just looking to get a few more. Sakura out of the mech will be dropped down. Water soon to follow to the grave, a watery grave as it were. Back wall, the only one left alive and too far away from this one. Not going to be able to contest the card. New Paradigm actually complete the map.
That was most of the distance gained by New Paradigm off the back of the kills at their own spawn for that C offense. It was coming out from GE Pantheon just a little too far forward, a little too greedy, trying to chase for kills that they could not collect. Got 3 members down. New Paradigm saw the opening. They managed to push the card most of the distance. Frost barely gets his Earth Shatter in time before Inhyok lands it on a bunch of members, including Inhyok, who himself was only on 95%, wipes the team, and there's just no comeback potential for Global Esports because they did not have the ults to play with, and New Paradigm, in overtime even, finished the map.
Now look, it is in overtime, means they don't have any flat time on the board. If we do go to time bank, they will get a minute added there, so they still have another chance. This now goes one of 2 ways. New Paradigm finds somewhere to fully hold, and GE Pantheon lose. We go to game 5.
We've been there before.
Exactly. Or GE Pantheon cap out, whether in overtime or with a better time, we go to time bank. And I think that's when the pressure really mounts for New Paradigm.
It certainly will be, but you got to really consider now, New Paradigm, the fact that they were able to push through and complete it in overtime, when you consider that after getting B with only 1 minute 30, the expectation there is getting any distance onto C is important. Capping out is suddenly not super realistic unless the defense really makes some big mistakes, which is actually what ended up happening for Global Esports. So that was a bit of an unusual cap, not one you'd usually expect, and now Global Esports have to deal with that by matching the time bank or at least getting something better.
That emote is so much better with the skin that makes him look like Cthulhu because it's all like eldritch symbols and stuff. It's so bad. Anyway, scouting Hanzo. Global Esports know what they're up against. They're going to opt to run Water on a Genji.
Swap from one Shimada to the other one as they push through. It's going to be somewhat of a classic die before we do see Spanik go over to the Sombra as well. Medic still playing onto this this Mercy. And for New Paradigm, playing the Winston version of Goats, slightly more flexible than the Rhine version for a defense.
I actually quite like Medic on this Mind Blank Mercy here, but that's a very quick set of kills from Global Esports, just kind of catching New Paradigm in the rotation. Same as what New Paradigm actually did to GE Pantheon on their initial defense, so nothing too unsurprising. New Paradigm will have another shot to contest on A here.
The other thing is, Global Esports were not scared to take the fight, and the one reason why Medic playing this Mercy here is somewhat of a benefit is he doesn't get caught in the melee when New Paradigm run into them as a Ghost Clump. He's still into the air somewhere, he's still floating around, he can damage boost someone like Water as he swift strikes through the entire New Paradigm team as they come through the mines. Speaking of New Paradigm team, ready to now assault this point once again.
Dive getting aggressive up onto the high ground, trying to finish off Water. He's going to be able to dash to safety. That would have been a huge kill if they'd found it. So now just in a bit of a stalemate for a moment.
Watch out Water though, he's nearly onto the Dragon Blood. He will have damage boost as well. New Paradigm just saw for ultimates, taking a bit of damage on Frost.
That's the thing, it's not quite like pocketing a Pharaoh where you're in the sky all the time, but you do still get a lot of verticality for Medic being in the pocket of the Genji. And now here it goes, Dragon Blade out. Self-destruct didn't quite find anything. The Blade actually Water stunned up, but he still found 2 with 1 fell swoop. And that's going to be plenty enough to crack the New Paradigm defense.
That's exactly what you want to see, and despite going into the mines, maybe Medic can't really go in there with them, but it doesn't matter because New Paradigm don't have anywhere to run. As a Genji, that's exactly where a Blade is super effective. Finds them all in a confined space. New Paradigm seriously on the back foot now. EMP even available for Spanik.
Oh man, this is a really unfortunate commit from New Paradigm. Nice preemptivity from Global Esports to stop a late contest on point A. Make sure that they get that cap. They're willing to commit the EMP for it because they maintain momentum on the cart and they're going to change anyway.
And that's the thing, because they're going to go over onto Goats, expecting Water to maybe swap next year. For New Paradigm, it was good in the fact that because they go through for a final contest, they do bake the EMP out. Otherwise, there is a potential to snowball, and it doesn't matter that they fed a lot of members because most of the ult charge game by Global Esports off that 6-man wipe has been nullified by the comp change.
Speaking of ult charge, New Paradigm have it in spades. A lot of things they can commit here. Even finding backwall without having to commit anything just yet is a nice opener for them. Question will be, do they need to commit anything else?
So far, the answer is going to be no onto that one. The rally was already used. Water's in a bit of a precarious position at the moment, just waiting to see if he can find some position in a New Paradigm. The fact that they can take control of the cart again without really spending anything, that's already a pretty decent start.
Now it is G Pantheon have to fight back onto it. This is going to be the self-destruct layered in on top of that nicely placed grab. Doesn't get much, but they're able to still get the kills in the grab anyway. I mean, it's the double threat, right? And that is Global Esports Pantheon copping another loss.
And actually getting the trade onto Iron is not bad. Iron has a long walk back distance, so as long as Global Esports don't lose anyone else, as long as they can really regroup and reset in time, they get to play a 6v5 here. Iron is only really just respawned, so there is some timing here that Global Esports can take advantage of.
And quick commit from Water, who's about to come up on a grab as well, so that is taking advantage of the timing. Frost is going to get aggressive though, and he's going to pay for it dearly. Solo grab is plenty enough there because it keeps the numbers advantage on the side of GE Pantheon, which allows them to get control of the cart.
Now you do have double support ultimates available for New Paradigm. Frost is coming back on Orion, ready to block out Anycock, who nearly has a shadow here, so nice adaptation. While he gets Taxi back to the point though, Global Esports are pushing for free.
New Paradigm are going to need to get a decent fight here to set themselves up. It's going to be a hard ask with the ultimate deficit they are facing down, and then they need to have subsequent fight wins.
Do have to really leverage both Froppy and Ref here. When the shadow does come down.
One from Anycock, not the hottest. Unknown though on his back for long enough for Sakura to find him with the self-destruct. So numbers advantage gained for GE Pantheon, but New Paradigm certainly not out of this one just yet. Transcendence from back wall allows them to find Frost, and GE Pantheon maintain their lead. Good counter stun, but Ein is still going to die for that. And Ref goes down to his counterpart Omnic. New Paradigm are going to get cracked on point B, and GE Pantheon will cap, having not lost a single member.
It's so important that Unknown was the member that went down there against New Paradigm because he was very close and still is very close to Graviton Surge. If he survives and if New Paradigm can maybe fight back, the Graviton Surge is the comeback mechanic. Because he's off the table, New Paradigm have to cop the loss there. Already on to see 3 minutes still remaining on the clock for Global Esports. You got to think they can cap this out and they can do it with a good time.
However, this is still a position where New Paradigm can set up a good hold on the cart. Water does come up on his grab just a fraction of a hair earlier than Unknown, but it's hard to really leverage that fraction of a hair. Finally throwing that one out now, trying to layer in the self-destruct. Nicely placed as well, really hard to avoid, especially if you're Frost. Now Unknown doesn't actually want to commit his grab because it's hard to follow up on, so New Paradigm have to cede more space.
And this is already Global Esports opening in the doors, kicking down the doors.
Oh,
a lot of members still going down. A late kill on Totero. Water's just setting up for some early damage. You've really got to see what Unknown can do with his grab, himself even hiding. But for Global Esports, look at that free push, just going in as far as he can.
Unknown's trying to get a wraparound angle here, but he and Ref are actually not in a great spot here. It's going to be hard to really find anything. This is a big risky situation for New Paradigm. Now here comes the commit. They're not really able to get much, and that is already too big. Trying to be too clever here is New Paradigm, and before they're even able to commit that ultimate, and it's Eden. Would have even been too late to commit it then anyway. This is absolute disaster for New Paradigm, and it's all by their own hand. Trying to be too clever has cost them dearly as the cart now moves in towards the terminus. Frost has got an Earth Shatter, but I don't think he gets the chance to use it. There's a sound barrier there, blocked now by Inhyok. Nothing gained from that. And Global Esports Pantheon will take us into Time Bank with just about a minute and a half more time than what New Paradigm will have.
New Paradigm were just waiting for the opportunity to maybe get that grab in there. Unknown reveals himself super early as well. And all that hiding is for naught. You saw how much time was lost, how much distance was gained by Global Esports while New Paradigm were just waiting for respawns, waiting for the setup to happen. Global Esports all too happy to continue pushing on through, all too happy to get as much distance as possible, such that when they do win that final engagement, they get the cap straight away.
I mean, they had to walk so far just to be able to commit a grab. And that's just on its own, right? I mean, man, the fact that Global Esports Pantheon, they weren't even earth-shattering there to try and preempt it. It's not like they saw the Zarya and they went, oh, okay, there's a window here before the Zarya can throw out a grab where we can shatter. They were going to shatter anyway.
And I think that's when you want to use the Graviton Surge, because as soon as the Shatter does connect, and it does get a few members, the grab stops Global Esports from going on and then collecting the kills on those members. It would have been a decent counter, but it's a lot of what could have been, so it's a lot of ifs and all that. We are now into time back. 1 minute for New Paradigm coming up from 0. And it is Global Esports with the 2 minutes 36 coming up from 1:36.
New Paradigm. It's a big disparity, but they can get off to a good start. It's going to be a bit harder. GE Pantheon are not going to run the Rhine Goats, rather, that was so quickly countered last time by New Paradigm. Good opening shots by Spanik as well.
They certainly learned their lesson, and Water's not afraid to take the duel in the skies. We know that already. Even lands that long-range shot. New Paradigm are just still, waiting to see what kind of opening they can find here. Both teams basically running the same comp. It's only Inhyok on the hammer that changes up.
A little bit of early space, but this is space GE Pantheon don't mind ceding, because they're playing for the objective here. They're playing for the fact that we are in time bank now, only 25 seconds. New Paradigm, if they lose a fight here, that's basically it, which means they have to win. And they get some good damage onto Inhyok, finishing him off. Nice scoop up by Unknown, and Spanik taking some pain. Had to translocate back 1 for 1 though. And Froppy can go in for a res. Can't really say the same here for the side of Medic and GE Pantheon. They keep the pressure on now in New Paradigm, moving forward.
We have an Unknown EMP coming through. Spanik is still too far away right now. There's a lot of members still available for the attackers for Global Esports, trying to come in the last second. Inhyok, he just has to start the overtime.
Yeah, gets discorded, so he has to pull back. A single pick here keeps things rolling for New Paradigm. Good discipline from GE Pantheon to reset back to 6, though. Frost going down. EMP comes out from Unknown. Where's the follow-up? It's got to be quick. Instead to Water, though. And that's not a start that New Paradigm need. Now counter EMP from Spanik, and this is all the distance they'll get. They did not follow up that EMP. It was not the EMP that they needed. It did not get enough members, and they did not get any kills off it either. That's all the distance they'll get this time back.
I'm going to say it got exactly the members it needed. It was just the fact that they didn't get the kills. The EMP actually hit both the Pharmacy combo on the side of Global Esports and knocks them both to the ground. That's exactly what you want to get. Ein goes in to try and get the kill into Water. Guess what happens? Water shoots up into the sky. Anti-air missile shoots Ein directly down. And he's been doing that all game. Again, he's not afraid to take the fire duels, and he's able to come out on top so consistently.
2 minutes 36. And New Paradigm do not have a hot spot to be holding out in. It's very possible, don't get me wrong. It's just going to be tough. They can't afford to have mishaps like what they just had in that fight just been, and indeed what they had on their defense on point C earlier.
So let's take a look at this, by the way. This is Ein getting shot down first of all. And I do wonder if we're going to see the moment where Ein does go onto Water later when the EMP comes through, but both players sort of had that moment in there. Froppy, I believe, actually got the kills from the melee.
Beautiful.
I do want to say something here. One thing you'll notice is Ein is discorded in this moment, and the interaction that you want to note is a discord orb on the opposing fire plus a damage boost from your Mercy on your fire means that the damage for the rocket goes over 200, allowing you to one-shot the other fire.
Medic considered running a Symmetra. Decided not to.
Probably a smart move.
I would agree with that. Water's going to be on the Genji here, so not going to be going one-to-one with the Pharah against Eind. New Paradigm could not afford to give too much space away, actually. They need to keep tabs, they need to keep aggression here, they need to be landing shots.
By the way, there's not so much time for Global Esports either. If they fail a couple pushes themselves, then they won't get this camp through, but they have a position that's good. Eind is hacked down as well, so at least for the moment is grounded.
Yeah, so huge for Spanik to actually connect that hack on the otherwise airborne Pharah. And again, we're actually seeing Medic on the Mercy pocketing Water. Again, I really like this. Oh, grounding Eind again. He's able to get away, but not for long enough.
Good defense.
Goes down. Now Frost is dead and it all falls apart for New Paradigm. Remember, they have to win this or they get sent packing.
This is just a lot of staggered deaths. Unfortunately, if they lose a couple of members, maybe they're going to res, maybe they regroup. But look at them, they can't even get 6 members together.
Can't res without Froppy. They're trying to dive back to the payload here. They will just be able to touch it, I think, but it's only going to be a toe tap from Tato. Frost now as well. Water with the blade. Finds Tato already. Frost now looking to go down. They should be able to find that one. Good sleep on the back line from Unknown. He'll get sliced to bits before he wakes. The rest of New Paradigm have been able to enter the fight, but they are still at a huge numbers deficit. It is all but finished. It is all but done. This is so unfortunate, but GE Pantheon, the better of the two here, and it's looking like new season, but same old Paradigm as they will once again be sent into relegations.
The last moments here, the last vestige of New Paradigm gonna fall apart here. Global Esports, they are not gonna go down easy. Global Esports are gonna take that victory. They dropped the map into the series. Gotta have to say, a 4-0 probably wasn't likely. Most teams have not been able to get a 4-0. Hong Kong Attitude have got 1. Talent Esports have got 4. But for everybody else, 3-1. It's still a very fair result. New Paradigm getting a map in the middle there, I would say fairly expected. They had a decent run this season. This is the kind of result we would be able to expect. New Paradigm to be able to punch back despite being a team that is probably the underdog in the series.
And at the end of the day, look, New Paradigm, we've said it from the start, were a team that could have made it into playoffs. They had a lot of promise, finished first in Contenders trials. That doesn't happen for no reason. And when you consider some of the teams that have finished, you know, second, third, fourth, and even fifth actually in trials have had extremely good showings throughout the entirety of the season in this region. And that's to say nothing of Cyclone Coupling as well, fifth in Chinese trials, who themselves look like they'll be able to make it into that top 4. In fact, I believe with New Paradigm losing, they're officially safe in that top 4. And that's what it all comes down to, right? You can say all that about New Paradigm. The map win was good. They still have the potential to win here. But at the end of the day, in this match and in all of those other ones, they did not get those wins that they needed.
And the thing is, even if New Paradigm do win here in the match against GE Pantheon, they would still have to, first of all, rely on Cyclone Coupling losing Hong Kong Attitude, still fairly likely, but then on top of that, rely on them having a better map differential against Cyclone Coupling, and they have to actually have a positive differential, because if it goes to head-to-head, they still lose. Cyclone Coupling already beat them earlier in the season. But that's going to be it. I'm pretty sure, I mean, when we consider the series as a whole, Global Esports, probably the team that were already in second place that you do really sort of favor here. You see the result here as well, 3-1. Again, not an unsurprising result. And for Global Esports as well, the kind of team where after the third map, after they collected the second map victory, which was Hanamura, they had technically already succeeded in getting second place secured.
Now looking into how that reflects in the standings, that actually does mean our top 4 for Group B is locked in. We know who is going to playoffs. We just don't know quite the order in which they'll be. Actually, that is a complete and utter lie. We do know the exact order they'll be going in, because even a 4-0 actually for Cyclone Coupling would still have them in a 4th place finish. But it is secured. Now this last match is just kind of for glory, and especially for both of these teams, it's about having a good showing going into the playoffs. But speaking of good showings, GE Pantheon will be very happy with that second place finish in this group.
We do want to take a look at the final match still to come this evening, after we have now wrapped up both Giant Esports versus Phoenix, as well as now Global Esports Pantheon versus New Paradigm. The one still coming up is Cyclone Coupling versus Hong Kong Attitude. That is going to be the final match of the regular season, where both of those teams now officially safe into the playoffs. Like you said, it's all about pride, and let's see which team has more pride, has